Hi everyone. I hope you guys are having a great week. And today's video will be about the reason why I have decided to no longer continue with Gryphon amplifiers or preamplifiers for that matter. But before I get into that, guys, you know the deal. Please subscribe, hit that like button, so that you guys are staying up to date with my latest videos. Okay? So let's circle back to the beginning of Gryphon with me. Started with Gryphon, I would say about 18 months ago. My first Gryphon product was the Gryphon Coliseum. If you guys go back to my earlier videos, you should be able to find a couple of videos with the Gryphon Coliseum and Sasha's, Wilson Audio Sasha's and whatnot. And I was quite impressed by the Gryphon Coliseum. I thought that amplifier was so romantic, so engaging, so beautiful. Of course, some of you guys may criticize the shape of the amplifier. Aesthetically speaking, it is the only amplifier that I have ever owned that was kind of like a computer tower. Okay, vertical, and some of you guys may not like the way the amplifier looked. I personally didn't have any problems with it. I thought it was really cool to see an amplifier that looked different than the usual rectangular shaped box looking amplifier. Sonically speaking, that amplifier always left me wanting to listen to even more music. I thought it was extremely light on its feet. And so I made the call and I made the determination that I needed to move up the ladder. That landed me with the Gryphon Mephisto. Again, that was on my channel as well in a previous video. And the Mephisto was a complete departure from the sound of the Coliseum. The Mephisto was a lot more analytical. It had a lot more grip. It had a bigger sound stage. It required more from you. It was an amplifier that not only was it extremely heavy, it was like 235 pounds. I think it was even heavier than the Boulder 2150 monos. But the Mephisto was an amplifier that was a lot more honest with me. It told me the truth about my system. It told me the truth about my shortcuts, the cable, the wire, the power cords, everything. I remember owning the Mephisto and being extremely blown away by the grip, by the speed, the dynamics. But it also led to, occasionally, at least with me, it led to me being a little frustrated. Not the fault of the amplifier, but actually my own fault. Because I needed to really accommodate that amplifier. I didn't think the Mephisto sounded great with Nordas cable. I just thought it was a little too bright. It was not really quite a match in my opinion. But I didn't start to turn things around until I bought the Gryphon VIP series interconnects. That's when I started to see that the Gryphon line, in my opinion, really benefits from their own interconnects. Could you try other interconnects with successful results? Absolutely you can. There's no question about that. But in my opinion, I thought the VIP series cables just did the right thing with the tonality of the amplifier. It made you get a bigger sound stage. It was very detailed, wide and deep. I remember the first time I heard those cables, those XLR cables with my Wilson Audio Alex. It was an incredible experience to the point that I had to order, and I ended up ordering two sets of cables. Because I was really blown away by what I was hearing. I do not know if it's something that Gryphon is doing with their XLRs and their amplifiers, but I do believe there's maximum synergy when you do those two. When you connect those two together, I think it leads to longer listening sessions. It leads to a bigger sound stage, a surround sound effect. And so I started to work on the Mephisto with cables. I started to work on it with different things. Then I brought the synergistic research, which helped tremendously as well. I thought the Alex were completely elevated by the Mephisto. But in the beginning stages with the Mephisto, I did have a couple of struggles with it. I believe the Mephisto has so much more underneath the hood that you need to be able to untap and dig out by using top-end power cords. I still believe the best power chord I've ever heard with Gryphon in general has been the AudioQuest Dragon power chords. I have tried multiple other power chords. Yes, I get good results, but I don't think I've ever gotten the results that I have received by using the Gryphon, by using the AudioQuest Dragon power chords. So, as I continue my journey with the Mephisto, the Boulder 2150s hit my door. I had a lot of fun comparing both very different amplifiers. I had a lot of people here in my room listening to both back to back. A certain camp would prefer the Mephisto's ruthlessness, huge bass control, very, very, very fast sound, and others prefer the 2150s ultra resolution, a lot of detail, but it was a lot more, I wouldn't say in your face, but it was a little more relaxed. They did not have, the 2150s did not have the same bass control that the Mephisto had. Now, I personally think Gryphon in general just tends to give you more meat on the bones with regards to bass. I think they tuned their amplifiers to sound that way. So this is why I thought we got more bass out of the Mephisto than the 2150s. And it happened every time, regardless of the cable, regardless of the speaker. The Mephisto was always a lot more. It sounded more. It had more depth. It had more punch, more muscle. I think it's just the thing that Gryphon does. I mean, and I've always been very vocal and open about Gryphon's bass. To me, it has been the very best bass that I have ever had in my room. Yes, as I mentioned to you, power chords will make a huge difference. The bass gets better with better power chords. But anyway, so that was a little bit of a short story with my Mephisto. Then after that, we switched gears into, eventually along the Gryphon line, I went to the Essence and then the Untitled Evil. The Essence being a complete surprise, to be honest with you. What a great amplifier for the money. I am going to have a review out on it. I'm not going to go into depth about the Essence just yet. All I can say for now, it was a great amplifier that really served me well, and just had a lot of bang for the money. Okay, the Untitled Evil. I've been very vocal about this. I wrote a couple of things about this. The Untitled Evil is definitely unlike anything else on the Gryphon lineup. The Untitled Evil, in my opinion, because it has some negative feedback, it tends to be warmer. It is the amplifier that, although there is neutrality to it and is very transparent, it isn't the transparency that you find on the Gryphon Mephisto. It isn't the transparency that even perhaps you find on the Gryphon Essence. However, what it does do is it allows you to be more flexible with system matching. The Untitled Evil has, because of its warm character, it tends to play nicer with the rest of your electronics, right? It tends to fit in, for lack of a better word, with a lot more of what you already own. Does that mean that those of you who have warmer sounding speakers won't benefit from the Untitled? No, you can benefit from the Untitled as well. But just be aware that the Untitled Evil has the tendency to be more relaxed, right? A lot more laid back than the rest of the Gryphon lineup. If you remember, actually, I think the Untitled is the amplifier that has been with Gryphon the longest. So they have had several versions of the Untitled. So this tends to be the amplifier that's actually more desirable by a lot of people because of that, because it tends to play nice with a lot of other electronics. Okay, now that doesn't mean the rest of them do not, but they tend to demand more from you. Does that make sense? And then that brings me to the last Gryphon component, which is the Gryphon Pandora. So the Gryphon Pandora has been here with me for quite some time. I am a believer that if you own or plan to own a Gryphon amplifier, you must, again, I cannot stress this enough, you must have a Gryphon preamplifier. You must. I tried different preamplifiers. Yes, I had great results. For example, with the Boulder 2110, which, by the way, it is about $60,000. So I keep that in mind when I say that. I think for the money, which is, I believe, $32,000 for the Gryphon Pandora, in my opinion, there is no better preamplifier that I have heard, at least, again, I have heard in my room, better than the Gryphon Pandora for Gryphon amplifiers. Could there be a better match? I'm sure there is. So there are different options for you guys to try. There's no question about it. But if you want to immediately hit it out of the park without having to guess, please do yourself a favor. Buy the Gryphon Pandora or a Gryphon preamplifier and match those amplifiers with their matching preamplifier, because I'm telling you, the synergy is there. It exists. They play well together. I've always been blown away by what the Gryphon Pandora does. Generally speaking, not just with Gryphon amplifiers, but I think with a lot of other amplifiers. Some of the common things that I typically hear here in my room with the Gryphon Pandora is a large soundstage, great bass. It's got a very beautiful, beautiful depth to it. It's got control. I've always been very impressed by it, and I should be. As you know, the Gryphon Pandora uses 2 chassis, right? And it uses 2 power cords, 1 per channel, so it isolates a lot of the internal components completely. And it's beautiful. I like the way it looks. I like the remote control. I like the build quality. There's really nothing bad to say about the Gryphon Pandora. This is why it has been Gryphon's flagship preamplifier for quite some time now. But anyway, with all that said, and that was just a high-level explanation, and I probably will get into more detail about each particular amplifier on a future video when I get around to it. I have owned, as you guys know, every single Gryphon amp, period. There's no Gryphon amp I have not owned in their stereo version, which, okay, some may say, well, you haven't owned their mono configuration, but you know what I'm saying. It is the same model. It's just bridged or turned into a mono configuration. But I've owned every stereo Gryphon amplifier. And I pretty much feel that this brings me to the end of my journey with Gryphon as a whole. I feel that today I have arrived at the conclusion that there's nothing else for me to explore with Gryphon. I have explored a lot of cables. I have explored power cords. I have explored different speaker cables. I have explored a lot of different speakers, a lot of Wilson speakers, Magical speakers, Martin Logan speakers, Magnapen speakers. I mean, what haven't I done with Gryphon? I've done everything with it. Right? I have literally gone through every single thing with a fine-tooth comb. I have gone through every aspect of Gryphon components in my room. So there is really nothing else for me to explore with Gryphon. At this point, I think I am at a point where it's time to move on. It's time to part ways. It's time to go in a new direction. It is going to probably break my heart because I've always loved, and I'm going to be clear on this, I have always adored the Gryphon sound. Always. I fell in love with Gryphon over a year and a half ago, and I couldn't say anything bad about the product. It's amazing. It's really, really well built. Some of the best looking components in my opinion. But all good things come to an end, guys. I think it's time for me to begin to explore different brands. I think it's time for me to begin to go to different pastures, if that makes sense. You know, you get bored, you guys get bored, I get bored too. And so it's simply me wanting to gather all my funds to buy a different line of amplifiers and preamplifiers and begin to play with them, right? I have something coming really soon that I will be sharing with you guys, hopefully by next week. So that basically is that, guys. I just wanted to be open and honest about what's happening here behind closed doors. I thank you all for the support, for the love, for the feedback, for the comments, and everything else that we do together day in, day out. I could not do this without you all. I've mentioned it before. Thank you for the support. Thank you to all of you out there who have my back. And I hope to see you all soon. I am expecting, hopefully, to be at Expona 2021 by October, the end of October, and meet a lot of you guys. And hopefully we can just have a great discussion, okay? Thank you again. Take care.